what are a few lesser known herbs that really deliver?
Yeah, I've got a long list here, so let me know when we've, talked about this
For
enough.
sure.
I'll mention the first herb that I want to mention is an Ayurvedic herb, Pumi Amalaki. And let me say, I'll spell these things for people. Let me say that my practice is very mixed. I use herbs from all over the world, and I use theories from all over the world. So I coined the term very early when I first got started in this global herbalism. My co-author of one of my most recent books, Michael Tierra, the founder of the American Herbalist Guild, wrote a book called Planetary Herbology. So we were both thinking about the same thing, at the same time. So Bhumi Amalaki comes from India. It's Bhumy. Then the next word is Amalaki, Bhumi Amalaki. This is a stupendous liver herb that folks here haven't heard very much about. The beautiful thing about this is that most liver herbs have the side effect of queasiness and loose stool. So Bhumi Amalaki is much less likely to produce that, yet it's stupendous for general liver function, but especially liver detox. Ayurvedic herbs historically were taken as powders, but many times now that powder is available in a capsule. So either way could work. Again, highlighting that not every herb can be taken in every form. So there might be Bhumi Amalaki tincture available. Somebody might be making it, but that doesn't mean that they know how to make it. It's never been made in human history. So a typical dose of liver cleansing herbs in general is the dose that is up to the amount that if you took more would make you have uncomfortable queasiness and loose stool. For most people, it's around 7 grams with Bhumi Amalaki. All right, so lavender oil, the essential oil of lavender, has been well known for a long time, but the idea that we could take that internally is a very new idea. This has been a real bump for my practice. A bunch of German research over the past 10 years started to look at taking lavender oil internally for anxiety, and boy, does it really work well. So you buy this, I guess you could just use lavender essential oil, good quality, and put it in your own capsules or something, but it's available encapsulated in little soft gels. They're only 60 milligrams. They're purple. And you take one when you feel anxious, and then you can take another one in a few minutes if you need more. So somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 to 6 of those tiny capsules a day is pretty good. But that's gotten a great response from clients. Calamus, which is an herb that's used in all of the big three systems, also really delivers. That's a brain herb. It's used in Ayurveda to enhance meditation, cognition, brain function. It treats seizures. I mean, just a all around great brain herb, calamus. So the thing about that one is that it's very nauseating, and we have to be very careful. So you want to start with about 250 milligrams of calamus and work up incrementally. And again, be careful. Most people can take about 4 grams of calamus, divided doses with food, and not have side effects. But if you and I took 4 grams of calamus just sitting here on an empty stomach, we'd be puking like crazy in 10 minutes. So we have to be quite careful with it. Lobelia, another, I guess I picked a bunch of herbs with queasiness, but lobelia, lobelia is well known to be nauseating. So that's primarily a lung herb, and then also it's a nervine or relaxing kind of remedy. And it does both of those things very well. So it suppresses cough. It is a bronchodilator, so it's beneficial for asthma. It works fast and effectively. This was so famous that it was starting in the early 1800s, became the signature herb of Western herbalism. It was the herb that everybody knew that herbalists used, and it was kind of the standard bearer. Anyway, that's easily available as tincture, and tincture is probably a pretty good way to use it because you can dose it very carefully. So you have to start with a few drops, work up gradually until you get the result you want for aiding breathing, or in fact, as a systemic relaxant, either one. And if you take too much more than that, it'll be nauseating. So you have to be careful there. Another lung herb, Vasaka. This is back to an Ayurvedic herb. It's Vasaka, Vasaka. I learned about this herb. I knew about it before, but I really learned the intricacies of it during the pandemic. It's a very famous lung herb. And in fact, the Indian government recommended that it be used for COVID symptoms. So I tried it. Boy, it really worked great. And I used it extensively throughout the pandemic. And now it's one of my top 5 lung herbs. I usually use Vasaka as a tea, about 30 grams as a tea. You would infuse that because it's the leaf that we're using. And that usually does not have any side effects at all, but people very definitely notice lung support, easing of breathing, and especially with respiratory issues like COVID or even just the flu. Another lung herb, bamboo manna. So manna is any kind of white, kind of neutral, more or less tasteless edible substance. So this is the dried sap from the inside of bamboo. You know, bamboo has those
Hmm.
chambers inside. So when bamboo dies, they split it open and it's full of dried sap. Very easily available out there in the herb world. This is in the top three cough suppressant remedies in the world.
Wow.
So we don't always want to suppress cough, but when we do, it will just shut off cough just like that. So that can be taken. It's often taken as powder. You put powder in your mouth and let it kind of trickle down your throat. That will be helpful. But otherwise, you can just take it orally and swallow it. Typical dose there is about, let's say, 5 grams, maybe in the 5 to 10 gram range. Again, just shuts it off. Amazing. Another one, Google. This is an Ayurvedic herb as well. Guggul. It's a very famous dried sap, again, from this desert bush. And you can just shop for Google. Google actually means dried sap in Sanskrit. But when we just say Google with no other qualifiers, we mean this particular tree. And this is fantastic for lowering blood lipids. There's a lot of controversy in the science about how well it works, but clinically, I've just seen it to work very, very well. It lowers cholesterol rapidly, cholesterol and triglycerides, and it's available in capsules. So typical dose is around maybe 7 grams, but the results are dose dependent. So the more you take, the faster it works. You want, if you have very high cholesterol, uh, 250, 275, 300, you can use up to about 15 grams. And you're talking, in 4 to 6 weeks, it's normalized, just astounding, very rapid. Anyway, so that's a good choice. And then the final one on my list is a combination actually from Chinese medicine called Yin Chow, Yin, and then Qiao. It's Chinese medicine is kind of spelled in a funny way in Roman alphabet. Yin Chow. This is probably the most famous anti-cold remedy in Chinese medicine. It's got about a dozen herbs in there. But when COVID got rolling, we had a lot of contact with our colleagues in China to find out what they were doing. And of course, Chinese medicine is a lot bigger in China than it is here. And so they had millions of patients to experiment with. And patients were open minded about using these things. So they found out that this remedy worked especially well. And during the pandemic, I used it extensively with great results. But it's every Chinese grandmother's remedy for treating cold and flu. It works very, very rapidly. Now, here we go back to dose issues again, because the dose of Yin Chow is available in pill form. The dose is about 30 grams. So that just seems like way too much for people. That seems like way too many pills. But in fact, you can take, let's say, 5 grams in pill form when you wake up in the morning with that kind of flu-like feeling, and you wait 20 minutes. If you're not feeling better, you take another 5 grams, and you just keep taking, let's say, 5 grams at intervals until the symptoms are under control. And then you just take the dose you need during the day for the symptoms to stay under control. For most people, it's about 30 grams. And you can wake up the next day without flu symptoms. Probably a good idea to take it at that kind of a dose for one more day just to make sure, but knocks it right out. Very well known, easily available. You can get it on Amazon. Just a stupendous herb. Anyway, that's a list of a dozen or so herbs that just really deliver. They do what they're supposed to do. And there's none of this sort of, well, it takes a long time for herbal medicine to work and, all that. So good luck to our listeners. Right? Those kinds of,
Yeah, that
those
was
are,
about a dozen, wasn't it?
yeah.
That's awesome. I actually had a few thoughts. The first one you mentioned was uh Bahu Amalaki. Am
Yeah,
I getting that?
Bhumi, Amalaki.
Boomy
Mhm.
Amalaki. That's not the same Amalaki and Triphala, is it?
No, but they're actually related. Bhumi
Okay.
means earth. So
Okay.
this is an amla tree that grows close to the earth. It's a little shrub that grows about as high as your waist. And in
Okay.
this case, it has similar constituents to the amla, but in amla that's in Triphala, we use the fruit, whereas this
Gotcha.
one we use the leaves.
Okay.
So this one is more of a liver herb, whereas the fruit is more of an anti-inflammatory.
Okay, I guess second question was related to the lavender essential oil. That was really interesting. I've never heard of people really using it internally like this. And coming from my Mountain Rose Herbs background, we're always like never use internal uses for essential oils, unless under the guidance of a qualified healthcare practitioner. So I'm just kind of curious if you have any thoughts on the safety of using these essential oils internally.
Oh, sure. The reason that people say that is because of liability, and most
Right.
essential oils could be misused. Most of
Mhm.
them we don't take internally, although, frankly, every herb that you take has essential oils in it. The
For sure.
question just is about the dose. So most of herbs that we use on regular basis have about 2% essential oils. Some, like ginger, maybe a bit more, maybe like 6%, and something that's very non-oily, like chamomile, maybe a 0.5%, but generally about 2%. So uh, the essential oil then would be 50 times the potency of the whole herb, and you could get into trouble really quickly. So rather than educate people about them, it's just safer to say don't ever take them. But there are a number of them that can be taken internally. Peppermint oil is perfectly fine to take internally. That's available in gel caps as well, like the lavender. Fennel oil, caraway oil, those are taken internally, and again available in uh, gel caps. Rose oil can be taken internally. So there are a few of them that are safe to use internally, and that, in fact, um, we do use. People know that oregano oil is taken internally. That's marketed, and that some people take that as drops, but they have to mix it in with something else because oregano oil on your tongue, just one drop, is overwhelming. So that has to go in an empty capsule or a bite of mushy food, or there are capsules of oregano already prepared available. So there's a bunch of them that can be taken. You just have to know which ones. If it's in a pill designed to be taken, then it's fine. But otherwise, take a course in essential oils. Speaking about that, I have a course in essential oils that I'm delivering in May of 2024, which may be in the past when you're listening to it's being recorded, but it'll be available as a recording. I'm doing that with Stephen Horn, who is the president of the American Herbalist Guild before me. So
Okay.
that's a 3 evening course on everything you want to know about essential oils, and we'll go into all those details.
I'm really excited. I'm going to be interviewing Stephen Horn here in the next couple months. So I've never really had a conversation with him before, but I know, yeah, he's also got a quite the extensive background as well. Comment on the calamus. Uh, you told an amazing story in our last interview, episode 47 of the Herbalist Hour, about uh, how you use calamus. I won't spill the beans here, but basically it has to do with a child beginning to speak. Just very powerful story, and I love bringing that one up. Also, speaking of classes you're teaching, you mentioned lobelia. I know I've seen this being promoted lately on your website. Is the smoking class or smoking cessation class, I should say? Are you speaking about lobelia in that class at all?
I did not talk about lobelia in that
Okay,
particular class, just because of the nausea issue. It's
gotcha.
really, I mean, the folk name for it is pukeweed. It's really probably the most nauseating herb that we use on a regular basis, and
Yeah.
it's real easy to make a mistake there. And since I was talking to the general public about smoking, I was a little concerned that they were going to get turned off of the whole experience at the first time they used lobelia and puked all over the place. But it's an excellent lung herb, and people do use it to stop smoking. It has the active ingredient, lobeline, which is an alkaloid, is very similar to nicotine,
Hmm.
and it hits the nicotine receptors, and so helps people uh, just feel better as they're withdrawing. Let's put it that way.